Questions, questions, questions. Don't you ever wish God would answer your questions? How much longer will I be sick? Who will I marry? Why must people suffer? I certainly am that way. When I don't understand something, I go straight to God. I don't think He thought my questions were disrespectful. I was not being critical. I just wanted help understanding the mind of God. If there was anyone holding on tight to God during this time, it was me. My name is Habakkuk, and I was a prophet during the death throes of Judah. My name means one who embraces or clings. Zephaniah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel were there too, along with some of the others. I was born during the reign of good King Hosea, but my book was written around 609 BC during the reign of Jehoiakim, his son. After King Josiah died in that same year in a battle with the Egyptians, his son Jehoahaz became king for 3 months. That did not last very long. The Egyptians attacked and put our country of Judah under a tribute of 100 talents of silver. In a sense, that meant that we had been conquered by them, and as long as we paid the required taxes, they would leave us alone. They carried King Jehoahaz off to Egypt, and he died there. Then they crowned Jehoiakim, another son of Josiah, to take his place. Now King Jehoiakim was no King Josiah. Don't you wonder how a kid with a wonderful father like Josiah could end up being so evil? He reigned 11 years and was a wicked king. Oh yes, Jehoiakim did pay the Egyptians their tribute, but he exacted all the money from the people of Judah, the common folk. Now in his days, the Babylonians and Chaldeans set their eyes on our country and came up against Judah and Jerusalem for the first time. King Nebuchadnezzar entered Jerusalem, and Judah now became a vassal state to Babylon for 3 years. Many of the young princes were taken into captivity, including Daniel. They also took him to Babylon, along with many of the treasures from the temple. But let's back up. My words were penned at the beginning of King Jehoiakim's reign. Judah was a mess. Many of the prophets, including Micah, Isaiah, and Zephaniah, have been predicting captivity into Babylon for some time now. Although Josiah's reforms were noble, they had not affected the hearts of the people. Power had concentrated into the hands of an elite few. The rich were exploiting the poor, and everyone was filled with greed. How long was God going to put up with this stubborn and obstinate people? Did they think God would be patient with them forever? King Jehoiakim wanted nothing to do with us, the prophets. He burned Jeremiah's scroll. I sat down and just poured out my heart to God about it one day. Have you ever done that? I cried out to him, telling him things he already knew, that the city was full of violence, strife, and contention. Therefore there was no justice. The wicked were winning, surrounding the righteous. The city was falling apart. So I asked God, how long will I cry out to you and you will not hear? I look around this nation and all I see is violence. Why aren't you doing something about this, Lord? If you are so used to talking to God, you realize that sometimes He answers you right away, sometimes He doesn't. Talk to Him anyways. But in this case, He answered. But it was not the answer I wanted to hear. The Chaldeans were coming to take us out. They were a bitter and hasty nation, terrible and dreadful. They were a powerful military force that showed no mercy. I had heard the warnings about the Babylonians and Chaldeans before, but this time it hit home. So then I asked my second question. Seriously, God, how can you use them to discipline us? They are more wicked than we are. They devour men more righteous than themselves. How can this be possible? I know you have marked them for judgment too. Will you let them continue to slay nations without pity? I sat down then and awaited Yahweh's reply. I decided to set a watch until I heard from Him about this. I needed to know. And I knew He would correct me somehow, but I just could not understand what God was doing. God answered me again and said, write down what I'm about to tell you. In the future, my people are going to need these words, for they are about an appointed time in the future. It is going to happen. Though it tarries, wait for it. It will surely come. Then He said this, behold the proud. His soul is not upright in him, but the just shall live by faith. What? It took me some time to process this thought. Why this? Why now? Then I understood. The Chaldeans and much of the people of Judah were proud, and their souls were not upright. They had to be judged. But the others, the ones that believe in Yahweh, it was their faith that kept propelling them forward into life. At that point, I was writing faster and faster because God was talking and I didn't want to miss anything. I knew He was talking about the wicked in our day, but also about the last days too. In the last days, there would be a world leader who wanted to be in charge of the entire world, and the people of Israel would be asking the same questions then. How long, Lord? He reassured me, one day the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord. Wait for it. I began to think I had really aroused God's anger with all these questions. He kept saying, "Woe to them! Woe to him who increases that which is not his." How long? Woe to him who covets evil gain for his house. Woe to him who builds a town with bloodshed. Woe to him who gives drink to his neighbor and worships wooden and stone idols. Oh yes, judgment was coming. I was thankful I did not serve a God of wood and stone. Yahweh God, the living God, was in his holy temple. He was a just God, but also a merciful one. Then I remember the words, "Let all the earth keep silence before him." So I sat and was silent for a time and became overwhelmed with fear. Fear of what was coming to Jerusalem soon. Fear of the anger of the Lord. Fear of what would happen to all the people, both in our day and in the future. But I did what I always do when I become afraid. I prayed again. "O Lord," I said, "in your wrath, remember mercy. You are such an amazing and awesome God. Your glory fills the whole earth and the heavens too." It was then I reminded the Lord of the vision he had given me. He was coming in all his glory to judge the nations and trample them in his anger. He was going forth for the salvation of his people, Israel, led by his anointed Jesus. The vision was so clear by this time I was shaking and my lips were quivering. I was praying for mercy, praying that I could rest in the day of this trouble, on the great day of the Lord. As I sat to ponder this thought, I gained a new resolve. No matter what happened, I was going to rejoice in God. I was going to take joy in the God of my salvation. I remembered that my strength comes totally from God, and no matter what happened, he would strengthen my feet to walk through anything and help me walk on high places with him. I cast my lot totally with Yahweh God. What he had said was right. The just shall live by faith. I did not need to know all the answers ahead of time. I just needed to trust him.